Did the 49ers really not even contact Robbie Gould about their kicker situation going into the 2023 offseason? Now have a rookie kicker in Jake Moody previewing the special teams units for those San Francisco 49ers returners coverage guys for training camp 2023. Coming up right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers live episode. We're previewing the special teams units for the San Francisco 49ers entering the 2023 season. Appreciate everybody jumping in the live chat, making us your first listen every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. It is what we do. Preview, Jake Moody, I keep wanting to say, on today's episode, getting fired up for this one, fired up for the new week of podcasts here. And we are with you as always, even in the offseason, just like we are in the regular season. And training camp's coming. We're seeing a lot of contracts. We might see one of those for the 49ers as well. So more on that later in the week. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by our friends at LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Here we go, Croc. The latest from Matt Mayoko about kicker Robbie Gould. I thought this page had been turned, but no. In perfect time here for our special teams preview episode, Robbie Gould told Matt Mayoko, quote, I, Robbie Gould, told them, the 49ers, I wanted to go back there. We never got an offer from the team, and we never had a conversation about coming back, end quote. Robbie Gould, now still a free agent, by the way, says he's focused on his 19th NFL season and his next opportunity, which has not quite come yet for him. Croc, I've got to read that tweet and that statement as reported from Matt Mayoko to go with this. And we got to reverse just a few months here, not that far back, going back to March 4th of 2023 as free agency got going. This from, again, same Matt Mayoko, NBC Sports Bay Area. Veteran kicker Robbie Gould just confirmed to me what at Adam Schefter had already reported. He fully intends to be playing elsewhere next season. Gould can begin talking with teams on March 13th when the open negotiating period begins for free agents. So, Croc, I ask you, how could Robbie Gould be surprised that the San Francisco 49ers didn't extend him an offer once free agency opened, when before free agency opened, Robbie Gould said he fully expects to be with another team, and that's long before. Nearly 2 months before the 49ers went and selected Jake Moody in the 2023 NFL draft.
They treated him like the 49ers treated Deion Sanders, where Deion Sanders became a free agent, and they're like, we're not really interested in bringing you back for whatever reason. And I see the parallels there. We're talking about a Hall of Fame cornerback, Hall of Fame kicker, Robbie Gould. I'm joking just a little bit, but I will say this. He is getting a little bit older, and maybe they just want a little bit more power in their leg. I was someone who felt like Robbie Gould was probably, outside of Trent Williams, the person that you can count on the most on the 49ers. Like when he tried it out there to kick a field goal, I was just 100% certain that that ball is going through the uprights. And, for a team that aspires to be a playoff team and have these really close games, and the NFL is full of games that are decided by, 3 or less points. How big is it to have a veteran kicker like a Robbie Gould? So, it was interesting to hear that they just didn't even reach out to him at all. I am surprised by that. I thought it was maybe up to him. And he was like, I think I'm kind of over it, because a few years back, he didn't want to even return to the 49ers. He wanted to go to Chicago, and they kind of held him hostage. Now he's out there looking for a job.
There was they slapped the franchise tag on him, right? Is that what it was? And he didn't like that. And played a little hardball, but then they ended up re-signing him. So I think that was a little posturing there and a little negotiating. Interesting though that Robbie Gould. So I think a lot of this was negotiating as well from Robbie Gould, and maybe a savvy move at the time. Him saying, "Okay, I'm trying to go somewhere else," because he probably was already let know by the 49ers that they weren't interested in him and they were going to go different, basically go cheaper at kicker is the entire thing. They're going to save $5 million by going with someone like Jake Moody at kicker instead of Robbie Gould on the roster. And so that was a decision probably the 49ers made, and Robbie Gould knew that even before free agency started, and he's kind of telling other teams out there, look, I'm available because I'm not coming back to the 49ers. Making it at the time seem like it felt like it was Robbie Gould's decision where he was moving on. Maybe now it's not so much that, or maybe now Robbie Gould overplayed his hand potentially, Croc, and is sitting there as a free agent. We're like, oh, wait, nobody wanted to pay me $5 million because I'm still not signed. Or maybe he's trying to get out of the beep test or get out of the first day of training camp as a 40-year-old veteran. I don't know. I don't even think kickers are.
All they do is kick.
They don't get put through the rigors, right? Do they put through the day one conditioning test? Kickers and punters and long snappers, are they out there?
The kickers and stuff, they kind of do their own thing. I don't remember them running with us. Maybe they did, but it's definitely not something I remember. As far as him coming back to the 49ers or not, exit meetings happen, like for every team, every player. And with a coach like Kyle Shanahan, he's very upfront with where guys are and different things they need to improve on. I wonder if either Robbie Gould got the vibe that they weren't bringing him back then, and he didn't even get the chance or the opportunity to say, hey, I do want to return, or if it feels like Kyle would just be like, man, really thank you for your time here and everything you did. You were awesome for us. Like, he used all these words kind of alluding to the fact that, bro, it's over. Your time here is done.
How about this from Todd in the live chat? He says he was past his prime and wasn't a team player during his last contract discussion. What do you think? Was he past his prime as an older kicker in the NFL? And did you get a mercenary vibe from Robbie Gould as a 49er?
Nah, we're talking about last year. When he lined up the kick, did you feel like it wasn't going in ever?
No, not at all.
It's not like
that's kind of different though than the idea that maybe he didn't feel like he was a lifer 49er. Todd probably feels a little bit like, he was a hired gun and kind of looking out for number one more so than, oh, this is a 49er kicker that we're all going to remember making big kicks for the team.
I don't care about that part. I just want to know, like, are you going to make the kick or not? And I felt like
the uprights, exactly.
Yeah, when he lined up, it was going through the uprights. So, that's the part. Now, again, the NFL, they're kind of telling us how they feel. He is a free agent. So, this is what I'm curious to see. Once training camp happens, because that's most important for kickers, who brings him in? Someone will bring him in to compete with someone younger. And if he's just banging them through the uprights, he'll get signed. Like, we talking about the level of certainty that he'll be on the team on a scale of 1 to 10, like kicking for a team on September 10th or 11th, whenever that first game is. I'm at a 9. I'm at a 9 out of 10. Like, he's gonna be kicking for a team week 1.
He'll be kicking for a team sometime this year. There's not enough great kickers in the NFL, and he's nails from at least a certain distance. Nathan says Madden rating 98 accuracy, 65 power, referencing Robbie Gould, I assume. That's okay for me. Like, if you're money up to 45 yards, 40 yards even, and you're going to make that kick, I'll take that all day over someone who's pretty good from 50 plus, but is no better from 40 yards and in. And and you're like running around the house as a football fan trying to find every good luck charm and rabbit's foot you can find when a kicker lines up. As you alluded to earlier, Croc, you don't feel that way when Robbie Gould lines up to kick. You feel like that thing's going through, and he was 100% in the playoffs.
I'm trying to look for his Madden rating right now.
Okay, Croc looking for his Madden rating. See if you can find the upcoming Jake Moody's Madden rating as well.
I got it.
Okay, you got it.
His kicking power. Oh, this is mutt. That's different. Okay, yeah, let me look for it. And
Okay,
then
look for the Robbie Gould and the Jake Moody. We're turning the page from Robbie Gould officially right now, and it is now the Jake Moody era, I think, for the San Francisco 49ers, or is it the Zane Gonzalez era? We've got a full-on kicker competition at training camp in 2023 next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. Whether you are hiring a cashier or you are hiring a kicker for your business, you want to be 100% certain that you have the access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Imagine what it's like for a small business it's like a kicker. You're looking for a coder and you only have one, and you're like, man, we've got to build this one thing, and you know someone is going to build it right the first time, right? All you do if you're hiring is you add your job to your purple #hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile, and that spreads the word that you're hiring. And simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and eventually hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. So LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So do we have a Madden rating yet for Robbie Gould and now new 49ers kicker Jake Moody, and for that matter, Zane Gonzalez? Can you find any of them there, Croc?
I could not find them, and I think they're gonna put out all the ratings probably soon. So I tried to look at past years, but like the only thing that popped up was Mutt. I'm not a big Mutt player on Madden at all.
For those who don't play Madden, that means Madden Ultimate Team, I believe, and I am not either. And I haven't played Madden for nearly 10 years regularly now, so I don't even know what's going on in Madden these days.
I feel like the Mutt players complain about the game a lot. Like connected franchise guys don't complain as much, but the Mutt guys, I feel like they're always looking for like something new. Where connected franchise guys are just like, man, I just want to play with my buddies.
Here we go. SJ Sharks fan says, the way Peacock says kicker competition makes me actually excited for a kicker competition. Have to have something to look forward to in the preseason. Yeah. What's more exciting? Let's have a poll in the chat. What's more exciting, kicker competition or quarterback competition? And which one's more of a real competition? If Jake Moody's missing kicks and Zane Gonzalez is making them in preseason, they're carrying 2 kickers, guys, because they're not going to cut their 3rd round kicker. Like how much of a disaster would that be if they cut the guy they just drafted, the first kicker in the NFL draft, in the 3rd round? It was a late 3rd round, but they're trying to win football games, and 3 points is important, and 3 points can make or break a lot of football games. And if Zane Gonzalez, the veteran, is making them and Jake Moody's not, they're keeping Zane Gonzalez. Now it might be a kicker, like a field goal and then kickoff specialist situation with Moody because he does have a big leg, and maybe that's the way they justify it. But there is a true competition happening right now, so the rookie's got to come in and make a lot of kicks early.
We talked about that stat during the draft or after he was selected. Only one kicker has signed a 2nd contract with the team he was drafted by over the last 10 years. And that has stuck in my mind when I heard that stat.
It's unbelievable. And you kind of felt that, and you know that there was a lot of kicker weirdness, and you know almost all the best kickers are undrafted guys or they're older players who aren't on their first team anymore. And so it would be a rarity for Jake Moody to come out of the blocks and just be hitting everything. But it has happened. And recently it was who is it? McPherson for the Bengals?
Yeah, he's pretty dang good.
He was hitting a lot of kicks early, and even has a little extra kicker swag. You got to be careful when you're a kicker, because you miss one kick and all of a sudden you're in the doghouse and everyone hates you again. So you can't have too much swag like you can at other positions, because you have an opportunity. If you mess up once, it's okay, and you can come back and make a big play. It's a little bit more difficult for a kicker. Do you feel worried about that, Croc, about the lack of gold? I kind of from a standpoint of someone who covers the team, I like the direction. I think it's smart to not pay a kicker $5 million a year. So getting cheaper, I think, is a prudent move. I didn't like the 3rd round pick of a kicker, But if he's good, then the 49ers will be a better football team because of it, if they, utilizing that $5 million in other places. But from a fan's perspective, on that first Sunday, when the kicker lines up, a lot of fans are going to feel a lot different than that. And they're not going to worry about prudency with their kickers and their dollars that they're making.
I am not big on creating holes, like in spots where you don't have to have a hole. So let's say, right guard or something, right? Where it's like, all right, let's move this guy here. And then it like creates this random hole where now like somebody has to step in and then be good there. I'm not a big fan of that. It kind of reminds me of, again, and then because typically when there is the hole, then you force something. And that reminds me a lot of the Kinlaw situation where you created a hole when I felt like the answer was on the team with Armstead. And then it's like, no, we're going to replace it with this. And that, to me, is always super risky.
Yeah, it's always risky just because of the coin flip. I mean, special teamers, kickers, the track record there, third round picks, to be able to pick a third rounder and say this guy's going to start right away is difficult. Different starting as a kicker than a lineman or something like that. But even with a mid first round pick, it's still a coin flip whether or not you drafted a guy that's going to be a starter in the NFL. So losing an important difference making veteran and replacing him with a rookie and thinking you've finished the job, that's a dicey proposition in the NFL.
I'd say one thing that they probably did well there is maybe having Gonzalez, and if they really like him, at least you have two guys competing for it. Where, okay, we don't have to just give the job to Moody. I think that kind of makes a difference, right? Think of Justin Jefferson and Stephon Diggs. When Stephon Diggs were traded, it's like, man, you have a massive hole. You have to fill that hole. Well, they did have Adam Thielen as well. So even if whoever they drafted wasn't this great receiver, he turned out to be the best receiver in the NFL. But let's say he wasn't that. Well, at least we have Adam Thielen who can like cover up for that a little bit until we kind of figure things out. We can throw kind of some different resources at it. Now, the other side of that is Tennessee Titans, who traded away A.J. Brown to the Philadelphia Eagles. They drafted Treylon Burks. He's, was a Razorback, Woo Pig Suey, so I hope he does well. But the receiver position was a huge issue for them last year. And then they had to go and sign DeAndre Hopkins today.
He couldn't make it through his first training camp practice, right?
Right. I mean, they're talking about all kinds of stuff he got going on. Yeah. And then during the year, it was kind of tough as well for him.
I want to talk about the rest of the special teams here, Croc. Let's talk about return units and cover units next. But how about the rock solid duo of punter / holder Mitch Wishnowski and long snapper Taybor Pepper? If there's some questions at kicker, there's definitely not questions about the guys that are going to be lining up those kicks for him, snapping it to him, and Taybor Pepper and holder / punter Mitch Wishnowski, right?
Taybor Pepper, friend of the podcast.
Yes, absolutely. Friend of the show. His story is awesome. Go back and listen to that episode from, was it last offseason we talked to Taybor Pepper? I think it was.
I think it was last offseason.
Yeah, it was right about now. It was about a year ago. We're pretty close to the 1 year anniversary of the Locked On Taybor Pepper podcast. And it was a lot of fun talking with him and hearing his story. And he's made himself into a legit, really good long snapper. I loved hearing the stories about the theory behind snapping and how fast those snaps are going and some of those things. But he's been awesome. He's been rock solid as a snapper. And Mitch Wishnowski, again, it's one of those things where with Jake Moody, he's a 3rd round pick. I kind of blasted him for drafting a kicker in the 3rd round. But if he's good, it's no big deal in the long run, right? And it's kind of what it's been for Mitch Wishnowski. He's a 4th round pick. It's like, hey, come on, guys, what are you doing? You're creating a hole, replacing it with a rookie, spending a high pick on it, higher than you probably need to for an older kicker. But he's kind of nothing special the first couple of years, but he had his best year last year, and he's top half of the league punter, and he's a pretty good player, and he's been a solid holder. So it probably helps for the rookie kicker in Moody to have that veteran combination in a rock solid duo snapping and holding the balls for you, at least.
Right. Yeah. And those guys are locked in. You don't have to worry about those guys earning the contracts that they did. Wishnowski being re-signed, and that was a questionable pick by a lot of people. And at that time, I didn't care as much. I was just like, well, I mean, how many 4th rounders kind of make the team? But then now, when you see just how quick kickers, punters, guys going undrafted, and they just do very well. It's like, how much of a difference is it? But they signed them back. So we talked about the kickers, and only one guy over the last 10 years earned a second contract. Well, the 49ers have a punter who earned a second contract. So, who else was drafted in that fourth round or third round around him?
So that was the first punter drafted that year. And it's funny because it's the same scenario as it was this year with kickers. It was the Patriots, and the Patriots care a lot about special teams. Bill Belichick does. And it was the Patriots that ended up drafting the next punter that year, just like they drafted the second kicker this year after Moody. And it was the Stanford guy that a lot of people were putting in their mock drafts for the 49ers then. Jake Bailey, I believe was his name, out of Stanford, the punter. And I believe he is not back with the Patriots just recently. I think his last year was the Patriots last year, and he was let go this offseason. So Mitch Wishnowski outpunted him. So it ended up working for the 49ers there with Mitch Wishnowski. Next, Croc, about the return units. Ray Ray McCloud. The 49ers put a lot of resources last offseason into those return and coverage units. So let's talk about those and some of the position battles with the special teamers next. Thank you once again, everybody, for making Locked On 49ers your first listen every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And make sure you are subscribed up on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. So 1 year removed from the offseason, Croc, that the 49ers added Ray Ray McCloud and George Odom and linebacker. He's the new starter at strong side linebacker now, and I'm blanking on his name, from the Packers. Special teams ace. Burks. Burks. Yeah. Oren Burks. Yeah. They spent some money there. They spent some money on some of those players. And now they re-upped Mitch Wishnowski, by the way, which is maybe part of the reason. If you're going to pay your punter and you're going to pay your long snapper long-term deals, are you going to pay your kicker as well? And you've already had those other free agents. So starting to spend a lot of resources on special teams. That probably went into the decision to get younger and cheaper at kicker, even though more resources in the draft were going to be spent there as well. But a year removed from that, what do you think about the returns from some of those guys for the 49ers, specifically the return guy in Ray Ray McCloud?
I don't think that he was like this special returner, but he definitely was someone that you can count on. And for NFL teams, the one thing that they want before anything else, can you catch the ball? You got to be able to catch returns. Why is Trent Taylor still in the NFL? Not because the Bengals value him as a pass catching receiver. It's just like, get back there for punts, and we know he's going to catch the ball every time. So Ray Ray McCloud, he does a really good job of that, first and foremost, not putting the ball on the ground. Now, anything he does after that, terrific. And I thought he had, especially as a punt returner, there were a few that he kind of broke open, but maybe didn't have the same impact as 49er fans might have thought, right? When you think of a return guy, I think of like Ted Ginn. And, we saw what he was able to do. I want to say in one of his first games as a 49er return, like 2 punts for touchdowns against the Seattle Seahawks, right? The 49ers, I feel like they don't attack the punt return position with a guy that is like specifically a return guy. It's like, okay, well, we'll get Dante Pettis. He's a terrific returner in college, but he's a receiver. Like, we like him as a receiver. Okay, Ray Ray McCloud and Kyle Shanahan said it. Hey, everybody's talking about this guy's a returner. I liked him at receiver. Why don't you go get the guy that he's going to be your 6th receiver on the roster, and obviously he'll be active on game day, but he's just your returner. And if you want to use him for some gadget stuff, great. But his main thing is he runs a 4-3. Every time he touches the ball, he pumps fears in opposing teams. They don't want to kick to him. Like, go get that dynamic guy.
Ta in the chat says, who do you think is a lock due to special teams alone outside of Ray Ray? I think I mentioned him. Oren Burks now, especially with the loss in free agency of Azeez Al-Shaair, is going to be around for the 49ers. George Odom as a 3rd, 4th safety, a veteran safety option after the starters, because the 3rd or 4th other safety is a rookie. So I think he's near a lock, and they brought those guys in because of their special teams ability. Obviously, the kickers and punters and the long snappers are all going to be there because of their special teams ability. And then a player like Miles Hartsfield, who's listed as a corner/safety, but he's more of a nickel player, Can he battle for time as nickel? Can he show some other ability in the secondary? Can he win a job because of his versatility? Can he play multiple positions? That'll be really interesting to watch for someone like Miles Hartsfield. Is he on the number one coverage and return units? Is he getting an opportunity to run with the twos at nickel and then run with the threes at safety or something like that? Maybe play some outside corner. And it's a real sign for other players like Ronnie Bell, who is the rookie 7th round wide receiver, Croc. And he's going to get a shot to be the number 2 return guy. So maybe that's his path to the roster. So look for any of the young players that are battling for a roster spot. Look for those guys in preseason games. If they're running down on the coverage units, it's a pretty good sign that the team is trying to find a way to keep them. And that might be the way that they can get that last spot on the roster for their position, because they have a role on special teams as well.
Definitely. We talked about the safety position with Odom and why he was probably going to be a lock to make this roster and probably kind of be that 4th safety between, the 2 guys that are going to be starting, Gibson, Hufanga, and then you got Jared Brown, and then probably Odom. And anybody else is like, you're probably hoping that you make the practice squad. I'm looking at the punt returners from last year, and I'm looking for Ray Ray McCloud, a guy that 49ers do like as a return guy. Where do you think he ranked last year in punt returns average?
Like yards per return?
Yeah, yards per return.
I don't right in the middle. I don't remember any. I don't remember many big returns. I think I know from the Pittsburgh days that he had a little bit of a fumble problem. I can remember maybe one big fumble last year as a returner. I don't think that was a huge problem for him. He seemed like he was solid, but I don't remember anything spectacular. I would probably put him at, if I had to guess, of the 32 top return guys for each team, he's around 16.
16? Okay. Third
in yards per return?
Third per punt return average, averaging 10.79 yards per return. And a little bit behind him, Trent Taylor. Trent Taylor is sixth on that list. So look at Trent Taylor being that short-handed guy.
Return is a good number.
Now it is right. Even nine is like, okay, you're doing well. I mean, he's in the 10, hovering close to 11 yards per return, which is really good. You're kind of flipping field position, because think about it. 49ers, a team gets the ball on the 25. The 49ers force a 3 and out. They punt the ball, and then you return it about 11 yards. That flips field position pretty well. Now, you talked about him not springing off any big runs. His longest return in the regular season, because I think in the playoffs he had a nice return, but in the regular season, longest return, 35 yards. So he didn't have any.
Wow.
And that might be even speak more to his consistency.
Oh, that's
because he doesn't have that.
Have any 90, 100-yard returns.
Right.
80-yard returns.
I mean, there are some guys with 50, 56, 76, 84 yard returns, and you kind of see their averages, and it's pretty good. Now, there are guys that did have more yards per return, but I don't think they qualified for the number of returns. So I think that's what it is. But whoever this is,
pretty good number. And
Avery Williams for Atlanta, he averaged 16 yards per return, and he had 18 returns. That seems like a decent amount. They weren't forcing many punts. I think that's what their issue was.
And by the way, to back up a little bit about the note of taking note of who is playing special teams that could be trying to make a position somewhere else. Remember Jordan Mason last preseason, Croc, and we noted it on the podcast because he was the up back on those punting units. And it was like, oh, this dude's going to make the roster because he looked good playing running back. But it was okay, and he has a role on special teams. And then we saw the third rounder from the year before get cut so they could keep the undrafted rookie in Mason because of his special teams value. So the more you can do for sure for the young players that are battling for roster spots, that's probably the number one thing to look for during preseason with special teams.
All right, one more thing for the returner with Ray Ray McCloud.
Yeah.
He did punt return and kickoff return duties for the 49ers. Out of 32 teams, where do you think he ranks as a kickoff return?
Third worst.
Third worst.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't again, like I don't remember anything super good or bad from him as a return.
His longest is 39 yards. I mean, that's not. And when
that's
you
not
look
great,
at all the guys on this list,
you should have a little bit longer runway with your kickoff returns than your punt returns.
Well, one guy had a 106-yard kickoff return for a touchdown
from deep in the end zone. How did he rank in yards per return?
9th.
In kickoff. Oh, 9th. Okay.
So I mean, top 10 in both.
Yeah.
3
wow.
So it's like, okay, it's a solid returner.
Yeah, get some yards and give the ball back to the offense.
Just not a game breaker.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. You go, Ray Ray. And given that slot role as well, and he actually made more plays. It probably had a lot to do with Ben Roethlisberger, but his usage with the Steelers before he showed up with the 49ers was the most dinky-dunkiest usage I've ever seen. It was not only 6-7 yards per catch. It was like 3.5 yards per catch. It was like running back, dump off usage almost as a slot receiver. And he was more than that for the 49ers. So I was impressed with Ray Ray McCloud as a receiver. So I saw
Ben Roethlisberger, he was shot.
Oh, done. Yeah, cooked.
Yeah. He couldn't throw the ball. That was kind of sad because I mean, and listen, I'm not super old. I'm 36 years old, but I remember Ben Roethlisberger coming into the NFL with Phillip Rivers and Eli Manning, and and it's like those guys are all gone, and that's what makes me feel a little old. I mean, it's like I watched Ben Roethlisberger come in, win a bunch of games, take over for Tommy Maddox, and then I watch him. I can't throw a ball 10 yards.
It's BS, to be honest with you. When you see the guys your age just washed, oh man, what the heck?
How old is Ben Roethlisberger?
38, 30. He's younger than no, he was 2000. Yeah, so he was the year before Rodgers and Alex Smith, 2004 draft, right? That was the Manning, Rivers, Roethlisberger draft. So he's probably right at 40.
41 years old.
There you go.
Yeah.
So yeah.
NFL old and regular people old, drastically different olds.
Oh well, right. There's wear on your body. Like if Roethlisberger didn't play in the NFL, he could probably outthrow Crocker. But looking at Crocker's pro day and looking at Roethlisberger's last year in the NFL, I think Croc could outthrow Ben Roethlisberger, NFL looking at quarterback right now, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And by the way, thank God he didn't sign with the 49ers. Remember that story?
Yeah.
A few months ago? Brock Purdy played way better than I think Ben Roethlisberger would have for the 49ers if he ended up getting that job after Jimmy G went down.
Ben Roethlisberger doesn't seem like someone that would play for 49ers. Do you remember that? There's that video, and I know he was just having fun, but you had one quarterback go through the drills and he has to dodge the things that they're throwing at him and then throw the ball. And then Ben Roethlisberger goes through the drill and he's just letting them hit him and he's just hitting them, boom, boom. And then he throws the ball like, man, F you guys drill. I'm going to do whatever I want. And I'm like, I don't know if that will fly with the 49ers.
He was a big dude in a Haas and apparently one of the tougher dudes to bring down and tackle as a quarterback that you were trying to sack in the NFL. Shout out to Charlie, who is tuning in from Costa Rica. I love seeing that. Peacock, what are you sipping on? I got a little Negroni going here for this live evening episode. I hope everyone's enjoying themselves right now as much as I am. And we've got some questions about Nick Bosa's contract. We'll cover that later on in the week. And who knows, maybe he does sign at some point very soon. We're seeing a lot of contracts getting signed right now around the league. And it happens, with the deadline of camp coming up. And you want to get your players in camp and get those things signed. So deadlines create signings in a lot of cases. But I am going on vacation. We're recording a podcast for Tuesday, and hopefully Bosa doesn't sign in the next 48 hours. If he does, I'm going to have to give my thoughts on it here on the pod after that. But Croc will be here with Wink on a Winky Wednesday as well. And of course, we'll be with you guys every day as we always do. Talk to you then right here. Locked On 49ers.
Subscribe to this video.